Hello, and you're listening to the Unworthy Exchange. My name is Alex.
My name is Nico.
And today we're talking about when God goes quiet, when it kind of feels like we're left in the dark on things, when he goes quiet, we don't really know where he's at. Maybe we feel like he forgot about us and we just have no idea what's going on in our life or what he's doing, right?
Yep.
Can relate.
Very common.
Can relate. Very common.
Can relate in that season right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of examples in scripture that we can look at that give us context to how this is going. But also I just take heart. You know, if you're in that season or if you've been in that season, you know exactly what it is, take heart. But think of it as he loves us. He wants us to succeed and wants us to do well. Mm-hmm. And this may be a test. Where's the teacher during a test? They're always quiet, but they're always watching, right? Not in like a creepy way.
Yeah.
When there's a test being taken, the teacher is there close watching you, ensuring that you are working through the test properly, but they are quiet for your benefit. If they're loud, you're not going to be able to walk through the test like you need to, right? And that's just one little nugget of an example there.
Yes.
That I gave. Whoa, your phone is very blue there.
Oh, no.
Just saw I
know.
Apps. I'm like, whoa, bunch of blue apps.
There's a book my friend recommended me. I just remembered the title of it, so I don't want to forget that.
So yeah, when he's quiet, it's usually because of refining, because of testing. Another example I like to give that I've talked about before is like smelting, and the Bible is very specific about the Lord is the refiner of hearts. He refines our hearts like gold, like silver. Well, what is refining? It's thrown into a fiery furnace and it's hot, it's uncomfortable, and the impurities are melted away. But the refiner, the one performing that, has to be so close and watching so intently into the fire. If it's in there too long, it will burn up. If it's not in there long enough, it's all for nothing. And you have to start the process over. But it's all for a greater purpose, right? So like blacksmithing, forging, they would refine to remove the impurities and to strengthen and refine and strengthen. And all the while, intense focus is required from the refiner to say, I need to ensure that this is done well. Otherwise, I will just completely ruin what I'm working on. But it's for a greater purpose. You don't just refine gold for nothing and then just throw it out. You refine it so it can be used. Or just like iron with a tool. The heating and the cooling is building strength and it's building resilience. And then once it's done, once it's out, now it can be used as a tool where the refining process it went through is necessary to give it strength for its intended purpose. Yeah. Right?
That makes sense. I think this episode is probably going to be more just, like you said, encouragement within that season, because I'm definitely in that season. I think you're also in that season of just not understanding what God's doing or where you're going. And it feels like everything's confusing, but what do you do when you're in a scenario where you don't really know which direction to go? There's a lot of different perspectives on that, but I think the most biblical route is to seek God. Just continue loving God, continue seeking him, praying, journaling, reading. And ultimately, I believe that's what God is trying to develop in you during this season, is a heart posture of knowing, like the Apostle Paul says, I know how to be exalted and I know how to be brought low well, because he's found the secret to contentment in every season. I'm struggling a lot with that in this season, where it's like I don't really understand what God's doing. I feel a direction that he's going to have for us, my wife and I, eventually, but it's like everything feels stagnant right now. And yeah, like what do you do in a season like that when nothing is working out, everything is seeming to be failing, and it's like I just don't know.
Yeah, it comes down to faith, really. I mean, that's what he's trying to develop and trying to grow, is that faith. If, like, we know his character, right? We know the character and the nature of God. Romans 8:28 tells us that he works all things together for the good of those that love him and are called according to his purpose. But people will misquote that. Like, that doesn't say he works all things together for good for everyone. Right. Only those that love him and are called according to his purpose. And that's not Calvinist. That's not like, oh, you have to be chosen. You have a responsibility to choose, do you love God or not, to be included in that. But the other piece of that is that we think, oh, he works it all. Like not everything is good. Even the things that we perceive as bad, he can turn those things for good. And some things are just bad. in this life.
Yeah.
Some things are just hard, and some, like, he can take those things and turn them for good, for the sake of edifying his body and for building us up. And so when you understand his character and nature, and you see how he operates and deals with his people, especially through the Old Testament, through all of it, you just see the heart of a loving father who only desires good things and blessing and obedience and relationship with his children. Like, that's the core of it. And so despite what we read about what people go through in the wilderness seasons and the wandering and the difficulties, like, look at Joseph. He was thrown into prison for doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Like, God gave him a promise years ago, and he was a kid. He gave him a promise that he would be put in charge. And then he gets thrown in a pit, betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery. He's working in Egypt. He does the right thing with Potiphar's wife, gets thrown into prison for that, does a good thing, interprets the dream, thinks, this is my ticket out of here. Remember me when you get out of here, and you go talk to the Pharaoh. They forget about him again. Another couple of years goes by. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, Joseph, the Pharaoh has a dream. And they're like, oh yeah, this guy can help you out. Yeah. And immediately it was like the result of the promise that God gave years, a decade or two before, finally happens in a day. He woke up in the prison. He went to bed in the palace. And all of that temperance and the refining and the waiting on God is that drawing out of character and the building up of faith that says, that is the necessary strength that's required for the next season ahead.
Yeah.
Joseph could not have managed or stewarded his position in Egypt had he not gone through what he went through.
That's good.
He would be brittle. And that is a weight. The weight of what God wants to give you, the blessing, is so great, but it will crush you if you're not ready. You have to be strong enough to be able to hold it. And that's where you're going through that season, is you have to cling to the character and nature of God to go, okay, I don't understand this. I feel like I'm in the dark. I'm missing something. But you have to go back to the basics, cling to those promises. You know, for me, it was like the birds of the air. I will continue to be taken care of because you love me. You will always do things and work things for my good because I love you. All of those things. I trust you to do what's in my best interest. I trust you for all of these things, despite what I feel, despite what I see, and just claiming that and knowing that. And he uses that. That's surfacing the impurities, right? Because that, how do you, again, I go back to the refining method for gold. Gold is mixed in with all kinds of other things. You don't just get like a brick of gold or what would you call that? A block of gold.
I feel like it's probably a word, a bar.
A bar of gold.
Yeah.
You don't just get that. You have to smelt it down and melt it. And the gold is mixed in with all kinds of other different elements and impurities and sticks and dirt or whatever else that's in there. Mm-hmm. It's like, we're trying to, it's not a process of adding more gold. You can't just add more gold to the impure mixture.
Yeah. You
technically increase the concentration of gold, but the impurities are still there, and you continue to add impurities with that. It's actually a process of removal, a process of unbecoming and removing the things that don't belong. Mm-hmm. If God looks at our hearts and he sees the gold that he wants to refine in it because it's there, because we're made in his image, there's also a whole bunch of ick and uck that we pick up that's given to us in this life. And he has to sort through that. And so when we're in the heat, the only thing that removes that and separates that is heat. You know, that's a cooking thing. That's a refining thing. It's like when you heat stuff up, things all of a sudden become more clear.
Yeah, that's all testament to God's love too. And it makes me think of Jacob and Esau in the Bible, where God says, you know, Jacob I loved, Esau I hated. And then you look at the rest of their lives. When God says he hates you, like, that's not him. God doesn't exaggerate. He's very literal, and he means what he says. So he hated Esau. Esau's life was abundant, and by the world's standard, he had a very successful life. Like, everything seemed to be going well for him. Jacob's life was very difficult. It looked more like this, like lots of ups and downs, difficult seasons, some easy seasons probably, but a lot of difficult seasons. And so when you step back and say, wait, but God says he loved Jacob and hated Esau, but Jacob had a very hard life, it brings us back to what you're saying, is that refining fire is God's love displayed. because I was even just talking to my buddy. I don't know if he watches these. Matt, hit us up in the comments if you watch these. We were talking on the phone yesterday, and something came to mind just talking about the circumstances in my life, because for context, I've been having a difficult week, and I've just been like pretty frustrated with God, and kind of in one of those seasons where it's like I just feel like I want nothing to do with God right now. Not in a way of like I'm walking away from my faith, so don't hear that. It's just I'm wrestling with God right now. And yesterday, something just came to my mind as I was talking to Matt, when I said I would rather be in a season where God is closing every door and I feel stuck and struggling and squirming, and like things inside of me that are ugly are coming to the surface so that I can surrender those things, than if everything I put my hand to was just going smoothly and easily and there was no course correction whatsoever. Because to me, with what I've learned through the scriptures, if everything is going easy and I'm facing no resistance, that is concerning to me, because it implies that God's turned his back to me, and I don't see God's love in that. I see God's love in if your life is rocky, if it's hard, if you're struggling and facing all these big emotions and whatnot. It's like that's God's evidence of working in your life, you know?
So I want to clarify some stuff in there, because like I know what you're saying and I agree with it, but the problem is people can then run away with that and just generalize too much to say, if life is hard, therefore I'm right with God. If life is easy or bountiful or abundant, therefore I'm not in right standing with God.
Well, I don't want to equate abundance to easy.
No, so hang on. Like what I'm getting at is having. I used to internalize this without knowing it, and the Lord showed me that recently. Is I would self-sabotage to keep myself in a state of struggle, because I internalized and thought that struggle meant I'm right with God. And again, trying to separate the abundance and easy. Again, those things they're not together all the time. And I think abundance may even be the wrong word. Let's just use the word wealth, right? Wealth is not evil. You can have wealth and have wonderful relationship with God. Now, people mix that up. Well, Jesus said that, it's easier for a rich man. It's easier for a camel to enter through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. There's so much to dig into in that. Like that could be a whole episode in of itself on that verse.
Or love of money is the root of all evil.
The love of money.
That's
right.
taken out of context a lot or misquoted.
God used it.
Love of money is the root of all kinds of evil.
But look at David. Look at Solomon. So then that's where people are like, oh, the Bible contradicts itself. Jesus says rich people can't go to heaven. But David was rich. Solomon was rich. Some of the richest people on the planet. So the Bible contradicts itself. It's like, no, he says it's easier for a camel to enter the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. And that the love of money is the root of all evil, meaning you have great opportunity, but great ability to stumble, right? That's just one way to put that. But going back to what your point was about like ease, my mind goes to in Romans 1, I don't remember the exact reference, but talking about how God gives them over to a debased mind. He gives them over to the sin. Eventually, if you just reject him and reject him and reject him and you don't want anything to do with him, he will just give you over to the things that you want.
He was talking about those who know the law and know God, but still choose to do things their own way.
Right.
In Romans 1.
And that's where you don't want to be in that position, because I also think about Satan tempting Jesus in the 40 days of the wilderness. Satan had the ability to give Jesus the things of this world. He offered Jesus those things. Satan wouldn't do that if he couldn't provide that. And I'm not saying like he's honest and true like God is, because God absolutely is. But Satan is the kind of the ruler of this world. Look around you and you'll figure that out real quick.
Yeah.
And so he tempted Jesus with all those things that I'll just give you the people of the world. And you have to be like, we as humans, it's hard to think about this, but we are designed to be enslaved. When you think of it that way, we have hearts and minds and spirits about us that are designed to be hitched to something. We are supposed to be enslaved. That's how we are created. And we
might want to clarify that.
No, and I'm getting there. Is the Apostle Paul talks about being a slave of Christ. A slave meaning I am bound to do the will of my master, because I desire to do the will of my master. It feeds me to do the will of my master, right?
Well, I think it's so slavery, biblical slavery, like what Paul's talking about, is a lot different than modern slavery. Like it's more synonymous with a bond servant.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Just hang on.
Okay.
Let me finish.
It's a trigger word for a lot of people. So
No.
they hear slavery and they're like, I want nothing to do with that.
No,
So,
but it's the truth, and that's where I'm trying to make that distinction. Is slavery is defined as that. We interpret slavery as like I'm forced to do this against my will, against my mind. I resist that. But I do think slavery is the appropriate word. Bond servant is the appropriate word. Is that we have a choice to make. We have hearts that are designed to idolize. We have minds that are designed to fixate and idolize. And when you become aware of that truth, you have a responsibility to say, do I choose to surrender my desire and submit to my God, Jesus, and allow him to be the ruler of my life? And in turn, in developing that relationship with him, I desire the things that he wants for me and vice versa. We become more of a walking relationship in that. Or I resist him and say, no, I really don't want that. That doesn't sound good to me. I'd rather just do my own thing. That's where the slippery slope comes in. That's where like the fear comes in of like God giving you over to that. You become enslaved to yourself. You become enslaved to the enemy, the devil, and you don't even realize it. You start chasing money, you start chasing careers, you start chasing things. And you ever notice there's just kind of never enough. You know, there's never enough shoes you can buy. There's never enough stuff you can collect. It feels really good to buy stuff. There's never enough money you can have. There's always something else that we can just chase. And there's always something else that we can go after. And we're wired that way. We're wired.
it's addicting.
Yeah, we're wired with addictive personalities. And that only gets filled through Jesus. That's why he's talking about the woman at the well. You know, those who drink from like him, his well, they'll never thirst. It's living water. He provides that quench for that unquenchable desire for the things of this world or anything. It's like, and so that's maybe a roundabout bad way to talk about and explain where we are designed to be enslaved. We are designed to serve. We are, as human beings, as much as we want to think we are independent and can lead ourselves and think for ourselves and we're not enslaved to anybody or anything, we're fooling ourselves if we think that. And that's the great lie, is that where the enemy can get people to understand that. It's like you either submit to God or you're submitted to the devil. There's no in between. The devil would let you think that there's a lot of gray area, but there isn't. You know?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel convicted that that's one of the things he's bringing up in me during this season, because ultimately what I've realized, and I had confessed this to my wife the other day, was like, because she asked me, I can't remember how she worded it, but I just was sharing that I feel like I can't do anything. And she asked me in so many words, what are you trying to do? Like, what is something working mean to me? Because I kept saying, it feels like nothing is working. Like nothing is working out. And so she asked me, that's what it was. She asked me, what's not working out, or what does working out look like to you? And I realized in the season that we're in, I am trying to chase some of the things of the world, like building wealth or building a life, which I don't think it's particularly bad to have ambition to do that if you're a husband or a leader. But what comes first? Is it my relationship with Jesus, or is it that? And I think if I'm being completely honest, it's probably more that than my relationship with Jesus. And so as a result, and this is what I just wrote down, I feel like he's telling me this right now. He's not letting me do anything. He's going to eliminate every opportunity for me, and he's going to make me sit here doing nothing, just existing, which is like one of the worst feelings for me, because I'm such a doer, where I feel like I get a lot of my identity from the things I do. Like, I'm a perfectionist by nature. I have to do things good and perfect and the best of my ability, and I have to learn and like overcome and achieve and conquer. I'm just a male in that regard. And he's just making me sit in existence. Like I told my wife yesterday, I feel like I'm just taking up oxygen on a daily basis. Like, I don't feel like I'm doing anything.
Aren't we all?
And I just feel like,
plant a tree, you'll feel better.
Yeah, right. Seriously, God's just
Lorax.
he's bringing to the surface all these ugly things in me because this week in particularly, I think what's got me so frustrated is myself. I'm just faced with how depraved my humanity is in that, like, I see the way I'm responding and reacting to the circumstances around me, and it's so the opposite of Christ. Like, I hate everything in me that's coming to surface because it's just evil. Like, it's exposing my heart condition as being greedy, as being angry, and just bitter. And I told my wife last night, I'm like, I just absolutely hate it. Like, it's ugly. And I can't help but just echo the words of the Apostle Paul when he's talking about, like, oh, wretched man that I am. That's just genuinely how I feel this week, is like, dude, I am the worst, you know? And this is all good because God's bringing these things to the surface, and I don't think those things would rise to the surface in any other scenario. So he's got me in the pressure cooker, and now he's like, okay, you're aware of it, so what are you going to do with it? He just wants it surrendered.
I got some thoughts, and I have to just take some notes because my brain goes down rabbit trails and goes down to different scriptural references.
No, mine does too.
I just want to make sure that I touch on these things because, like, speaking directly into your situation, what comes to mind when I hear you talk about that, because I've been there too, very recently, just coming out of it in like the last few days, genuinely, is he loves you too much to let you go. And it's like tough love feels like tough love sometimes. And because I think about the picture of like Israel. What did Moses do before the nation of Israel was exited from Egypt? He took and gathered the people, and he reaffirmed their covenant with God to say, do you say yes to God? Are we saying yes to God, that we believe him, we trust him, we will follow him, we're making a commitment to him? And so it's like when you do that, it's like, okay, great. I made a commitment to you, God. Now he's like, all right, let's go. And he starts pulling you, and it's like, you're exited. You're out of Egypt. You're out of slavery. How great is that? But then the whole time, what did they do? They complained, God, this is really uncomfortable. I feel like I'm just existing here in this desert. There's nothing to do but just survive every day and wait for you to show us where we're going and what we're doing. And I would much rather go back to Egypt where I feel like I can be useful. And he had to grow and that out of them for 40 years. An entire generation had to pass away before they could enter the promised land. But he did it because they committed and because they originally said yes to him. And that's where you're at. It's like, if you commit and say yes, he's like, okay, great, let's do it. He loves you too much to let you go back to the way you were before. And that should be a comforting thing, but you also need to trust the process. There is a dying off that has to happen in the wilderness.
Yeah.
For me, it was 40 months. Well, again, different things. I've had one where it was 40 weeks, one where it was 40 months. I'm like, thank you, Lord, it wasn't 40 years, like in your word. And so we talk about, we talk about all
close to dead.
Close to dead.
I guess that's like
ripped all the 60-year-olds. Gosh.
Sorry. Hope none of you guys watch this. Anyway,
so the point is, what you were saying is, like, we desire the things, we desire good things. We desire to build wealth. We desire to make a difference. We desire to do good things in this world. But what is the heart behind it, and what's it aimed for? Is it for self-service, self-accomplishment, or is it for others? Even for others is not necessarily the right answer. It's for God.
There's an order there: love God and love people.
And love
you
people.
You can't do the second unless you do the first.
Right, exactly. Otherwise, you loving others will just be a reflection of your vanity. Mm-hmm. And that was something he had to show me. Is like, oh, if I have a lot of money, I could help people. It's like, is that helping them, or is it making you feel good about helping them? It's like, oh, that's a difference. But my point is with that is the desire to do good and the desire to be in that position to have that is the fruit. We want the fruit without the root. All of the money in the world, all of the success and all of the good things will mean absolutely nothing if you don't have first wisdom, relationship with God, love, true godly love at the center of your being for him, and to allow that to overflow. And so this refining wilderness period is part of that. And when you think about it, Jesus was actually tempted with the exact same thing. I never understood his 40 weeks or 40 days in the wilderness temptation until very recently. Satan showed up.
Read that.
Huh?
I should read that.
Satan showed up and tempted him with bread. And I'm like, okay, I get that. He's fasting for 40 days. He tempts him at the end. The temptation doesn't come on day one when you're like committed and strong and you're like, yeah, we're doing this. The temptation comes at the end, at the very end, when you're so close to the reward and you're so close to the fruit that Satan's going to tempt you to give it up and trade it all in. And the Lord has you have to start back over again at some point. And so Satan tempted him at the end with bread. Like, okay, I get that. He's fasting. He needs to remain in that state. And then he tempted him with what? Throw yourself down off this tower so your angels will lift you up and the people of the world will see. And I was like, I never understood that. Why would he tempt Jesus with like, just try to commit suicide and your angels will pick you up and it's all good? It gets to the root of what Jesus' desire was. He desires for the people of the world to know that he is God. Because if he would have done that in a miraculous way in the middle of his city, in the middle of Jerusalem, and this guy, he's plummeting down and the angels come down and save him up, would not the people see that and be like, this surely is the Son of God, and worship him?
That wasn't the Father's will, though.
No, that wasn't his will. And so that was a shortcut, a temptation of a shortcut to see this is how people are going to know you're the Son of God.
Wow.
And I never understood that. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
like the temptation is only speaking to our truest desires. And then what was the next thing? Satan said, I'll give you all the kingdoms of this world. And that was the last
desire
one.
Jesus has.
And I never understood that either. I'm like, well, Jesus made it all. Isn't that his anyway? It's like, well, it's technically Satan's dominion, but right. It's the opposite of the desire that he just had. If he desires for his people to know that he is God, he also desires for all of the people to be his. He desires to rule over and reign with his people. And so Satan offering him that was like, here's a shortcut. Because Jesus knew the cross. He knew what was in store. He knew the road that was ahead of him. And Satan's temptation was just skip all that. You don't have to suffer and endure that because he was human. You don't have to die a brutal death. Just, I give it to you right here, right now. You just have to bow and worship me. Just submit to me and you can have your stuff underneath me. Like, temptation isn't real unless it's real. It's not like I'm sure that was tempting to Jesus because he was fully human.
Yeah.
And so the point of that is we experience the same thing. We want the result of, God, I just want this great thing. I just want like this good thing. And the problem is when we start chasing after that and just take the shortest path possible, it often is the temptation and the distraction that will get us there. But that is the path that leads to destruction. You know what I mean? And what that looks like in today's world, I was just talking about this morning with Sarah actually, is people chase money. They chase the result. They chase the fruit. They don't deal with the root. All they care about is, what am I getting? What am I getting? Where can I make the most money? Where can I just grow the most? Where can I buy the best house? Where can I just get the result of the thing I want without considering what kind of a person do I need to be to maintain that? Those are very big, different questions. And actually, this is not even a biblical concept. This is a business concept that I've always said for the longest time. And actually, Elon Musk just came out and said it in an interview. They were like talking about, because he's, richest guy in the world. They're like, oh, what's the secret and all that? He's like, stop chasing money. He's like, people just chase money and they get caught in round and round. It's like, start thinking about how you add value to this world. Be a person of value. Give first. Promote love, value, well-being, all of that. Just give. The money comes as a result. It's an effect. It's a fruit of the root of a heart that says, I'm here to serve and to give value. But people chase the result. Another analogy I like to give is like literal fruit. Let's just say apples. Let's say apples are currency, right? Take the word money out of your mind because money gets so convoluted in all these different ways. Let's just say apples. Everybody wants apples. Everybody needs apples. You start chasing apples. You may be able to attain apples for a day, but now you become enslaved to the source to keep that. You know what I mean? You have to keep going back to the supermarket. You have to just keep going apples, 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 apples. You have no...
Apples to apples.
Yeah, apples to apples. You really don't have much control over where those come from. But if you're somebody that says, hey, I recognize the need for this, I'm going to develop a field. And I'm going to till the field and I'm going to get some seeds. I'm going to put the seeds in the ground. I'm going to take care of them. I'm going to weed. I'm going to water. Everybody that's just chasing apples is like, what are you doing? Aren't you, you're being dumb. You seem so distracted and aloof. You're over there. It's like, you're doing nothing. And then all of a sudden, after a lot of patience,
You become the plug.
you become the plug. Yeah. It's like your own tree grows. Now you have enough to sustain for yourself and to share and to give and to help others. That's kind of how God's economy works. He doesn't design it so everybody just stays strapped for cash like people would think. Like, I'm going to be stuck in this needless, helpless just state forever. And I'm handcuffed. And I'm like, God, I just need a handout. I need a handout. I used to think for the longest time that's what it was, and I was wrong. He desires, like, he'll keep you in that state so you know what it feels like. You need to go through that because that's the character building. But he desires for you to grow up, feed yourself, have more than what you need, and help others with it so that they can do the same thing. You look at his people, the nation of Israel, when they were thriving the most under the reign of King David, King Solomon, especially during Solomon, because there's never anybody more wealthy than Solomon. They've even done studies on this. It's like, I don't think there's even been rulers since King Solomon that have had that much wealth.
You don't think Elon Musk has more wealth?
Maybe.
I don't know what that would even equate to.
I don't know. But
nowadays.
Like in the scripture, it talks about how many tons of gold he would just be given every year from other surrounding kingdoms and stuff. It's like it just attracted more wealth. And even up until building the temple, everybody was independently wealthy. The nation of Israel went from the smallest ragtag band of 12 guys, literally, and their families, to over a few hundred years becoming an independent nation that God set up. He protected, he defended, they took their own place, and every single person was independently wealthy. And so when it came time to build the temple, in the nation, when it came time to build the temple, they took basically like donations from the people. Each person was able to donate the equivalent of like $1.5 million worth of money in our economy. So that would be like here where we're at in Colorado Springs. That would be like if the church was like, we're going to build a temple to the Lord here in Colorado Springs. We want everybody here, every family, every business owner to be able to just give out of your own heart. And most of them, the average was like $1.5 million. How many people would be able to do that? That's the amount of wealth and the amount of just prosperity these people were going through, but it glorified God. The world sees that and it goes, wow, how, the God of Israel surely is God of all, isn't he? How good is he? That's what he desires for us, is that we see how good he is. And that's his plan for us now. We just get stuck in this lie and this belief that, well, Christians aren't supposed to be wealthy. They're supposed to struggle. I'm supposed to just give it all away. I'm supposed to just live within my means. And that's like, there's some truth to that, but that truth gets twisted. Can God do more with somebody that has much, with a heart that's yielded to him? Or can he do more with somebody that's kind of got this, like, I'm going to have my cake and eat it too?
Well, what's that verse that says to lead a quiet life? I don't know the reference or even the whole verse off the top of my head. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do know what you're talking about. It's about like, and again, like, let me look it up. Because before I jump to what my brain shortcuts, let me look it up here exactly. It's about leading
because I know that's a common one people use to reference just kind of being like middle class. And I've heard Christians say Christians should be middle class. Like, you shouldn't be anything higher or lower than that. You should be middle of the road.
It's 1 Thessalonians 4:11. And so this is talking about brotherly love, Philadelphia, about loving one another, caring for one another. Be quiet, do your own business, work with your own hands as we commanded you, that you can walk honestly towards them that are without, and that you may lack nothing. Living a quiet life doesn't mean being poor.
Yeah, I don't think that's the same thing either. And that's what I was wondering. I just didn't remember the whole verse, because you could have an abundance.
Don't be a meddler.
Don't be somebody who's like, I think of like these Twitch streamers or Kick streamers or whatever, who they buy their first Lamborghini and they get pulled over because they're doing 115 down a freeway. It's like that. You're just flaunting what you have, I think of Jake Paul on YouTube. When he came to YouTube, he probably didn't see that sort of thing, but it's like everybody's just flexing on, I bought this Lamborghini or I bought that. It's like, that's not how we're supposed to live as Christians. It's not, because there's a temptation there to say, here's my Lamborghini, God gave it to me, like, look at that. Is that the Father's will? And I'm not going to pretend to interpret
Well,
that, but
it's-
I would think maybe not.
The world is as the world does. We don't hold the world to the same standard as Christians are, because when you don't know any better, you don't know any better. And that's where true wealth, it's like you probably won't even know the difference when somebody has true wealth versus when they don't. But that's not to say you can't enjoy it. It's like, if I won the lottery, there'd be signs.
I'd have a full tank of gas all the time.
There'd be signs. I'd probably buy a Bronco.
Never
you know?
be below 3/4 of the tank.
But it's like, that's the thing, is we get conditioned to think, oh man, it is so bad. Like, if, let's just say, like, I could buy a third vehicle. Oh man, like that, I can only drive one at a time, and I just feel like icky and ucky about that. It's like, or you could just enjoy the things that God gives you as gifts. If you can reasonably and responsibly do that.
Yeah.
And it's
without
not
it
like
becoming an idol or
yeah. But the
identity
thing is,
piece.
people will be, oh, you should just give me some of that. You know, it's like, well, okay, that's a poverty and enslavement mindset that says just share the wealth, just give me some. It's like, no, that's different.
Yeah.
And it's also not your responsibility. Just because God gives you wealth, it's not your responsibility to save everybody and become the savior of everyone else either.
I had this realization the other day because I'm trying to sell my car. And if you've listened to the podcast long enough, you know by this point, I really do desire a truck. And it's something that, through prayer, the Lord has hit me with. I already have a truck, and it's not my truck because I really don't own anything, but He has a truck for me. It's not yet in my possession, but on the flip side of that same coin, the car that's sitting, I don't have a driveway, but the car that's sitting in my parking spot is also not my car. And I had this realization the other day as like people are coming to look at my car and prayerfully buy it. I was driving around like just praying yesterday. I'm like, God, it doesn't even feel like this is my car. And reflecting on that more, I think that's the point where it never was my car. It was God's car entrusted to me to steward well until the next person comes along. And in that same way, God has a truck that prayerfully, if He wills, He'll steward to me eventually. And it's like, I think that's the heart posture God's trying to cultivate. I'm not going to pretend I'm there all the way, but I'm seeing that where it's like He wants us to be open-handed with our things because the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. And we should never be in a place where we're chasing the thing. For example, I shouldn't just be chasing the truck and think like, oh, this is mine, and now I'm going to just hang on to it for the rest of my life, because I need to be open to, if God has this truck for somebody else in the future, then I need to have an open grip to let that flow through me,
Things have momentum, things have flow, money, possessions, all of it. And I think of like the old proverb, if you like a flower, you'll pick it. If you love a flower, you'll let it grow.
I like that.
And
I haven't heard that in a while.
That's not biblical necessarily, but the concept is still there, where
Agape love.
are we going to grab hold of this thing so tightly where we squeeze it, where it actually it consumes us, we idolize it, we end up destroying ourselves and the thing? Or do we hold it loosely enough to say, this is a wonderful thing I'm going to enjoy, and I trust you, Lord, and I thank you for it, and when the time comes that it's time for me to give it up, then I'm open to give it up? Whatever it is, houses, cars, money is especially like things, they have flow, they have direction. It's like water. If you're trying to capture water in your hand and you have turn on your faucet and put your hand under the water, you try to squeeze your fist and try to hold on. The tighter you hold, the tighter you actually try to squeeze and hold that water, the less you actually are able to hold on to. But when you have your hand open and you cup it, and you have the mindset and the posture of just holding, not controlling, but holding and managing, you actually are able to hold more. And we've had that too. Like, He has developed that mindset in me for so long, over so many things, that He's finally given us the ability to buy a house. We close on our house in less than 2 weeks. That in and of itself is a whole episode, but it was a prophetic thing. It has been 40 months. This is the 41st month. He's saving just as He said He would. He provided us a house at the end of the 41st month since we owned a house last.
That's hype.
It's amazing. Totally a God story. But it's all done. It's all been done exactly as He said it would. He told me a month and a half ago. And I was like, okay, that seems wild, God. But all through that time, He was teaching and stewarding and growing in my heart the practice of just letting go and stewarding. letting go and stewarding. So right, as I would go into this house, it's like, we're like, oh, what color do I want to paint the walls? I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. Like, I could paint a wall.
That was one of my first thoughts
And
looking
not
at the
get in
picture.
trouble.
I'm like, everything is white.
Yeah, I'm like, I could paint a wall. But it's not from the perspective of like, well, this is my identity. This is mine to like obsess over. It's like, no, I can just enjoy it. I thank God for it. And so it's a subtle thing, but it makes all the difference that if that heart is wrong in the little things, it will be very wrong in the big things. Money is an amplifier. Money just, it just shouts to the world about where your heart is at and the posture of your heart.
Yep.
And that's and that's going back to my point, is like, God loves you too much to leave you in that place. Thank God that he chooses to save and chooses to refine. He does it because he loves you. The discipline there is good. And, you know, talking about the money thing, like, my mind goes to Jesus talking in Luke. I don't remember what one of the parables he talked about, but he basically talks about use the wealth, use the things of this world to lay up your treasure in heaven. Use it to get in with people. Use it to make friends. Use it to make connections. Don't let it corrupt you. Don't let it consume you, but use it to build rapport and relationship with people. So it's like, hey, if you buy a Tesla or a Ford Bronco, I'm going to go to a car meet on this Saturday, and now I get the opportunity to be around all these other people, and I get the opportunity to be a light and to be a witness.
That is cool.
And the catalyst that was able to do that is like, that was my car, you know? So it's like,
it's not about
stuff
the
like
thing.
that. It's never about the thing. It's about your heart and the other people's hearts.
It's
That's
kind
what
of
God's
like
after.
your golden ticket into that demographic, you know?
Yeah,
like if
pretty
there's
much.
a cool kids club, it's like, if God wants you to get into that cool kids club to evangelize, he's probably going to make you a cool kid, but it's not like, oh, God wants me to be a cool kid. It's like there's purpose behind it, you know?
Well, and that's where,
I think of,
sorry, go ahead.
no, you're good. Gift cards. Gift cards, in my experience, are like the biggest amplifiers of what's inside in the heart condition. And my wife and I just encountered this last night because we have like this $25 TJ Maxx gift card. So we went to TJ Maxx last night, and I'm like, hey, you should use this gift card because we've had it like forever. For context, my wife has been having some health problems. Please keep her in your prayers. I'm not going to go into specifics, but there's been some health concerns. So one of the things that we've been talking about, and that I feel like is going to be super helpful, is like this particular supplement of like prebiotics, right? And so that just helps with like digestive things. I'm like, hey, maybe you should start taking like prebiotics. And she's like, oh yeah. But we never bought anything because money's been kind of tight, and we have our 5th wedding of this summer coming up next month.
Got too many friends.
I've been in 4 of those, one of those being my own. So it's like, whew, I'm never going to financially recover from this. But this one's out of state as well. So we got that coming up. And so we're pretty strapped for cash these days. But we had this gift card, and we're at TJ Maxx, and we're in like we happen to be in the supplements aisle. We look at this container of probiotics, and she's reading it. She's like, wow, this is amazing. Like, this has everything I need. Yeah, but it's half the gift card amount. And she's like, I'm probably not going to get it. I was like, well, why? And she's like, and I say this lovingly, and not like pointing out the flaws of my wife, because I know like the same flaws exist in me. I asked her, like, why don't you want to get it? She's like, because it's not a fun thing. Like, the gift card is supposed to be for a fun thing. And it's like, to me, that, because I wrestle with that too, because she was referencing, because I told her even before this happened, I was like, we have to get something fun with the gift card, because that's what it is. But when we hold so tightly to our expectations for something, or our desires for something, we're not open-handed enough to let God use it for his purpose. God provided a way for us to get the things that we needed, that she like desperately needs, I believe, at really no cost to us.
Come on,
it
man.
was given to us, but it's like we're willing to put that back because it's not what we want in our flesh, because it's not fun. And that's kind of what she said too. It was like, well, that's a need, that's not a want. I was like, yeah. And then she kept referencing, I eventually was like, who cares what I said? Because she kept saying, like, well, you said we have to get something fun. I was like, I know. And she said it a couple of times. I was like, who cares what I said? Like, I don't care. It's like, we need this thing, and God's provided a way for us to get it. So we did end up getting it, and I'm praying that that actually does something. But that just reminded me of that. Like, gift cards are the great amplifier, because there's a verse that says, if you're faithful with little, you'll be faithful with much. And to me, that just reveals that we are not faithful with even the little things. Like,
Yeah.
you get gifted $100 and it's like, wow, I have these bills due. Or I could go buy a game for my Switch and then just struggle or work a little bit harder later. But it's like, well, that's not
I lived there for years.
in that same sort of way. Is that not what you were referencing earlier when Jesus was in the wilderness and Satan was like, I could give you all the kingdoms of this world. Like, you can just have the fruit right away if you just work a little bit harder later.
Shortcut.
It's like, no,
I found a shortcut.
You have to be faithful with the little things, you know?
And we just walked through that with even just the house. It's like, because again, little turns into much. So it's like we've had savings. We have a savings account. We have a buffer. We have numbers that we know. It's like we don't want to go below this number. And so God has given us all this money. And then when it comes to buy this house, which has been a miraculous thing, I absolutely know it's the fulfillment of his word that he told me. Everything about it, it just comes down to like, okay, we need to pay earnest money out of our pocket to do that. And I'm like, can we afford it? Yes. But it uses too much of my savings where I'm not comfortable with it. But it's also like, God, I can't inhibit this. Everything else has been your plan, and according to your will, we need to pay this money. We have this money. It's just more than I would want, that I'm comfortable with. But to me, to not do this is sin, because I recognize where you've called me to just do everything up until this point. It's like I have to surrender that, my idea of what this is supposed to be used for, and just give it to you and be like, okay, we'll pay it. So we pay it, and then they're like, oh yeah, we're going to use that, and we'll work on actually getting that back to you after we close. I'm like, oh, didn't know that going into it, but it's like, cool. Again, just trust him with it. Trust him with it. Yeah. What were we talking about this episode again?
I'm staring at this bird outside.
Yeah, the bird feeder is actually kind of nice.
It's really fun. They just discovered it. We've had this bird feeder up Little Rabbit Trail. My wife and I has like this camera bird feeder, solar powered, Wi-Fi camera. So you got seed and the idea is the bird flies up right in front of the camera. It's like wide angle and you can take pictures of it and record it and stuff. Super cool. We put it up like almost a month ago, and the first bird just showed up this morning, and he went and got his friends. So they've been at it all morning.
All that to say, when God is quiet, trust him. Dig into his character, When he's quiet, press into him. Say, where are you, God? Where are you? What do I know about you? What have you told us about yourself? What have you told me?
Approach the throne with boldness.
Yeah, I actually just prayed that the other day. Yeah. Yeah, just seek him, look for him, and you'll find him. That's what his word says. And when he's quiet, and then when he's quiet and all the distractions are removed, he'll clue you in. He'll tell you what's going on. He'll tell you where you're going. But he won't tell you if you have a distracted heart, if you're kind of half in, half out, your posture's not really there. Align every part of your being, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, with seeking and submitting to him. And he'll honor that. He'll meet you back where you're at. But that doesn't mean everything's always going to be good or that you always have answers for things. It just means that he'll stay right there with you.
No way.
What?
You're supposed to say Yahweh.
Oh, Yahweh. Yahweh. Well, that's actually an interesting tidbit. And I actually just did like a little study on this, again, rabbit trail. Yahweh is the name of God, our God in the Bible. That's the God of Israel. And the gods of the nations past, little g gods, was always synonymous with their people. Baal and just like the gods of Egypt and all that stuff. Those are evil spirits, but they also weren't real at the same time. And the God of Israel, the God of Yahweh, is the one true God, the highest Elohim, because Elohim is a term for like little g gods, basically.
Yeah.
And that's again, that's a whole rabbit trail of an episode. But the point is, Yahweh is his name. And so he has told me in the last few days, invited me into praying using his name. And I don't take that lightly, of like speaking to Yahweh, speaking Yahweh's power over this. Because that was another thing. He's like, are you complaining to me about how big your problem is? Or are you proclaiming to your problem how big I am? Is what he told me. And I was like, oh, okay. So I will proclaim Yahweh's power over this. Yahweh, you are the one true God. I'm using your name. I'm not just using God. God is a title.
No, that's first name basis. Right
like
there.
This is first name basis. Yahweh, I know you. I love you. I trust you. And I proclaim your power over this and your will be done. And actually the name Jesus is a kind of a combination, a hyphenation of Yahweh. So Jesus in the Hebrew is Yeshua. That's where we get our name Joshua. Yeshua, Y-E-S-H-U-A. Y-E is like the pre-suffix of Yah. It's the shortened version of Yahweh. So the first half of Jesus' name is Yahweh. Shua means saves in the Hebrew. So when you say Jesus in Hebrew, Yeshua, it means Yahweh saves. That's Jesus' name. And so he showed me that the other day, and I'm like, wow. So he is God. He is Yahweh. That is his power. Jesus, Yeshua, is Yahweh saves. That is the way that he saves us. He is the way that he saves us. And so just getting me to see that and break that down and pray his name and speak to his name over those situations, it's like, it's powerful. So that was a bit of a tangent, rabbit trail.
That's cool. I think that's a good place to end it.
It is. It's a great place to end it. But that's what I'm saying is like these quiet moments where it's like, where are you, God? Dig into those things. Dig into his character. Dig into his nature. And you'll begin to see so much of more of his power revealed to you. And you begin to understand different facets of his character where you go, okay, now I'm on a first name basis with God. I don't take that lightly, but man, how amazing is that?
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a great place to end it. Hopefully you got some encouragement out of this. Continue to press into him. Continue to seek him. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing. We'll see you in the next one.